Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Nolan yields.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I guess I'll start by asking, I want to talk about kindergarten. I'll start by asking, is it accurate that SED intended for the Common Core standards to be implemented for a full day of kindergarten?
Yes.
How is it then reconciled that there are still a number of school districts in this state that do not have full-day kindergarten?
It's a problem.
I agree. There's a conversion aid bill that Ken Zabrowski and I have worked on. Right now, what exists, there's 1 year of transition aid for those school districts that want to move to a full-day kindergarten program. The state will come in and help that school district pay for the costs for 1 year. After 1 year, the state steps away and says the kindergarten costs are now completely 100% your issue. So the legislation that we worked on would phase out that assistance. We would continue to aid the districts for the first year, but then in year 2, it would be 80% of the aid. In year 3, 60, in year 4, so on, 40, 20, and then 0, so that it's not a cliff that the school district falls off of after the first year. We thought this was a reasonable proposal, and especially in light of the fact that there would be no fiscal impact in this budget, given that the year 1 aid would be the same as what exists now. We were hopeful that this could be included in the budget. In fact, thanks to the Speaker and thanks to your leadership, Chairwoman, it was included in our Assembly budget proposal a number of weeks ago. My question, though, I just want to make it clear, during these budget negotiations, what was our formal position on this bill, and what has been our Chamber's position on full-day kindergarten in general?
I think, as you know, colleague, the Assembly was a strong supporter of full-day kindergarten for all districts. We incorporated your bill and our other colleagues' bill into our one-house proposal, and we did fight very hard for it. It does take 3 to tango in the legislature, and we were by ourselves. But with any luck, we will continue to try to pressure the Senate majority and the executive to support this important initiative, which we appreciate that you brought to everyone's attention. There's only 9 districts that don't have it, and it's very important that they do get it, and it's of modest cost. And I hope that continuing with your efforts and others, we can work to make it possible.
Thank you very much. On the bill, Mr. Speaker.
On the bill, Mr. Skoupis.
Over the past number of years, we have spent a lot of time as a body, rightfully so, championing pre-K. The governor followed our lead and championed pre-K, brought universal pre-K to New York City. There is a lot of work to do on UPK for the rest of the state, but we have rightfully focused on this issue because during these early formative years, children need to be in a classroom as the brain is developing so that they are able to succeed later on in their educational career. Yet, in 9 school districts here in New York State, as the chairwoman mentioned, we do not have full-day kindergarten. We actually have some students, some children here in New York State that go to full-day pre-kindergarten and then take the step back and go to half-day kindergarten before then moving forward again to full-day first grade. That is outrageous, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned before, and as the chairwoman confirmed, SED's Common Core standards are intended for a full day of kindergarten education, and yet in these 9 school districts, there is an injustice being perpetrated where for these children, we are saying it's fine if you get half of the education that all of the other children in New York State are getting. That is not right. But in these 9 school districts, there are unique financial circumstances that prevent the school boards and the school districts from transitioning to a full-day program. The concept that my colleague Ken Zabrowski spearheaded and that I've strongly supported would have aided those 9 school districts so that every single child here in New York State can get the kindergarten education that they deserve, just as we are striving for them to get the pre-kindergarten education that they deserve. We put this in our one-house budget a number of weeks ago. We were very optimistic that we would have partners when the negotiations were underway. And I'm sad to say that this was omitted from the final budget bill that we are considering here today, a budget bill that is otherwise a phenomenal education budget bill. The 9 school districts in New York State that still do not have full-day kindergarten, I have the fortune of representing 2 of the 9 in the entire state. The 9 that don't have full day are Brighton, West Arundecoit, Pittsford, Rush Henrietta, Washingtonville, North Rockland, which we spoke about yesterday, if you recall, East Ramapo, Shenandoah, Harbor Fields in Long Island. 8 of those 9 school districts are represented by Senate majority members. The same Senate majority members that would not support this during the budget negotiations. I cannot understand why we have Senate majority members who would not help the very children and the very school districts that they represent, so they can go back to their school districts and explain when they visit their schools to those kindergarten teachers, to those kindergarten students, to those administrators, why they did not support this bill so that their districts could get to full day. I implore them post-budget to join us in supporting this effort. This is long, long overdue. Most people in the state probably wouldn't even think that we don't have mandatory full-day kindergarten in New York State. If you ask 99% of people, they would probably just assume that it's consistent all across New York. But for the children in these 9 school districts, we have a lot of work to do, and I implore the Senate to join us post-budget to finally get this done for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Skoufis. Mr. Graff.
Will the chairman yield, please?
Mr. Farrell, will you yield?
Yes, I will, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Farrell yields.
Hi, Denny. How you doing? I'm just going to do my little slice because you're hearing about everything else. My colleagues are doing a great job. Can we go to the New York Power Authority portion? It's the
Yeah.
merger with the Canal Corporation. Do you have that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, what we're doing is we're transferring the Canal Corporation over to the New York Power Authority, correct?
Yes,
And the reason we're doing that is, isn't it a fact the governor, right now there's a lawsuit because what was happening is it was underneath the Thruway Authority,
yes,
and there's a lawsuit against the governor or us saying that the money for the tolls should have been used for the roads and not the canals. Is that true?
yes,
Okay. So what the governor did here is basically that lawsuit will be moved because he's going to move it over to, NYPA. Right?
no, we don't know that.
Okay. Now, who normally in the state maintains navigable waters? Would that be the DEC?
Yes,
Okay. So I'm asking, why aren't we transferring this over to the DEC?
because the governor asked us to.
And now the governor every year has, or for the last few years, has swept close to $90 million out of NYPA's budget every year.
Yes,
And this year, we're only sweeping out $20 million, correct?
yes,
However, the estimated cost of the canal, taking over the canal, is $70 million.
yes,
So we're back up to the $90 million again that we're
Yes.
taking out. Now, NYPA's main function, what it does is it generates electricity. And it sells the electricity to municipal electric companies, and it sells like to PSE&G. I have a NYPA plant in my district. That's really their main function.
yes,
So what's happening is every year we look and NYPA has just hanging around $90 million that the governor taps into,
Yeah.
which means we're paying $90 million too much in electricity, right? So now, what experience does NYPA have in operating a canal?
Well, they deal with water, so they,
Okay. Are we going to be putting hydro plants on the canal? Do we have anything in the
well,
budget
I
saying
was
that?
thinking of that big thing upstate in Buffalo. That,
Yeah, I've been trying to tap into that for years.
yeah, well, they have in many ways.
Okay.
Excuse me.
But the expertise in running a canal, they have no expertise in that.
They know how to run, but yes, they as again, I joke, but it's not a joke. It's all about moving around ships and everything. They do that because they're always over water. All of their things come from water.
Well, that's the canal personnel, but what's happening is NYPA, what they do is generate electricity. All right? So you would agree that probably the way we're set up and we have the DEC would be a better steward of the canal.
Well, again, I would say that's, if you can get the governor to agree with you, we can do that.
If I did that, then he couldn't rob NYPA of $70 million,
Well,
you know?
I
Right.
prefer the word sweep.
Yeah. You call it sweep, I call it rob. I guess it's the same thing. Thank you, Denny. On the bill.
On the bill, Mr. Graff.
One of the driving factors of losing businesses in New York State and the unaffordability, especially of Long Island, is the cost of electricity. Electricity, you know, the cost of electricity affects everything. It definitely affects your property taxes. In my area, our county pays over $2 million a month for electricity. That's our electricity bill. I have one town that pays $500,000 a month for electricity. Another town that pays over $300,000 a month for electricity. And I have a school district that their electric bill is close to $250,000 a month. Now, these all go into your property taxes. Then you have to look at businesses and homeowners. And, you know, it affects us in so many ways. You're not going to bring in manufacturing unless you get the price of electricity under control. You're not homeowners, right? Young people that are trying to buy houses, that's one of the factors that's making it hard for them to buy a house. Yet what we do here is we have the New York Power Authority that sells electricity to many of our electric companies, and they're overcharging us. And the reason they're overcharging us is because they're a great place for this governor to have a slush fund to draw on. Now, for the last few years, he has swept out 90 million, 80 million, and if you look back, he keeps doing that every year. This year, we're sitting there, and he's only sweeping out 20 million for, I think it's advertisements, but he's going to make them pay $70 million to run a canal that they have no business running. What's to stop him next year of going back and taking another 90 million, right, out of NYPA, plus the 70 million? Look, the bottom line is NYPA was put there for a purpose, and the purpose was to generate electricity. So what they're doing right now is they're overcharging everybody in the state to buy this power so that the governor can have this slush fund. In this case here, I believe that basically we have to step back and tell the governor to get his hands out of our pockets, right, to help us lower the cost of electricity, which he talked about 4 years ago. He talked about the super energy highway, where he's going to bring cheaper electricity down, right, to help us with what we're suffering when it comes to the cost of electricity. Well, I haven't seen the highway yet. I don't see the highway in this budget. I guess he's waiting for the Tappan Zee Bridge to get finished so he can put it over that. But right now, I mean, we have to push back and tell the governor, look, this does not belong, right, under the supervision of NYPA. NYPA should not be paying for this. The New York Power Authority should be cutting rates so that we can make New York State more affordable and attractive to businesses. And if he wants somebody to manage the canal, who should be managing it is the DEC, because that's who we have, that's what we have them there for. So for that reason and a bunch of other reasons that you're going to hear from my colleagues, I think they're doing a great job. I'll be voting no on this portion of the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. Mr. Barron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You know, McDonald's has a nice phrase, a nice jingle. We deserve a break today. Well, McDonald's, your workers are getting a break today. A break from you. A break from you and your greedy profit time. McDonald's says that they're in trouble, that they lost profits. They did, from $7 billion to $6.5 billion. Poor McDonald's. And all of those franchises of McDonald's, if they're having problems, don't take it out on the workers. Take it out on McDonald's. Say that they're charging you too much rent. They're charging you too much for your overhead. This is about the workers. This is about the workers. We need to refocus the attention back to the workers. Yes, there'll be some businesses struggling. There'll be some farmers struggling. There'll be some not-for-profits struggling. But this is about the workers. If you want to talk about condemned to poverty, how about working for $9 an hour, flipping burgers for somebody else to make billions while you make some chump change, as we say? And these workers have been condemned to poverty. And by the way, in my beloved East New York, they have fast food chains all over the place. Burger King, Wendy's, Checkers, McDonald's, all of them making mega bucks off of black and Latino workers, making chump change. So we come before the body to say, hey, raise it to $15 an hour. $15 an hour is $30,000 a year. You're still in poverty. Try making $30,000 a year in New York City. You would still be the working poor. And many of the black workers, young people, their ancestors were enslaved and worked for free, built this capitalist economy and didn't get paid a dime. I know y'all have a fit when I come talk about reparations, but that's another discussion. If we want to talk about fairness, then let's talk about mega corporations making mega bucks off of the labor of people who are working poor, who could barely pay for health care, who could barely pay rent, and who could barely put food on their back. So when we discuss a living, a working, a minimum wage, this is the bare minimum. If capitalism wasn't so greedy, we wouldn't even need a minimum wage. They'd pay a living wage, share their profits with the workers, so we wouldn't even need a minimum wage. A minimum wage is the least that you can pay workers legally. So I'm glad we're doing this today. And this is a great day for the workers of this state, particularly of those in my East New York and all of these fast foods. CUNY and the tuition freeze, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I remember when CUNY was called the Free Academy. It was free when white people were in CUNY. It was free when the white immigrants went to CUNY. It was a free academy for them. As soon as people of color came into CUNY, here comes tuition. Here comes tuition. The complexion changed and the direction changes. Now we have to pay tuition. And you know what? They said, well, you have to pay tuition because in the 70s and 80s, the economy was bad. The economy was struggling. So we have to impose tuition. Well, let me tell you something. When CUNY was white, they built 2 new CUNY schools during the Great Depression. Now, you can't get more depressed than that. And if you can build 2 new CUNY schools during the Great Depression, you surely can roll back to free tuition. I chaired the Higher Education Committee in New York City, and I showed them how to do it. If you're putting out all of this money for TAP and all of these programs to pay tuition, and tuition is this amount, and it equals that amount, well, increase the state aid, increase the city aid, put all of that in the CUNY budget, and tuition could be free. So not only should we freeze tuition, we should make tuition free. Finally, education. I'm voting for all of these bills today, by the way. I'm voting for all of these bills today because I think we got a speaker that's sincere and tried his best. Did he get all I wanted? Absolutely not. Am I still pissed off some things? Yes, I am. I certainly think we should have done way better with the campaign for fiscal equity. That is not a negotiated item. That's a debt owed. You don't negotiate debt like the debt service. You pay it. This is a debt owed for 10 years. $5.9 billion, they said they owed because they discriminated against black and brown children in high-need schools when they were giving out the money for the state and the city. They discriminated against us. And they came up in 2006 with a number, $5.9 billion. I think that was too low. How long were you discriminating? That was too low. But they said, the court said, pay it. Here we are 10 years later, and you still owe us $4.4 billion. It's not enough to give us $625 million in the foundation aid column, and $100 billion of that going to community schools. That knocks it down to $525 million. That is too low. And maybe if we did this right, we wouldn't need to work at McDonald's because we would have the kind of education that could put us even above a McDonald's job. So today, I'm supporting these bills because the Speaker said next year, now that the gap elimination was taken care of, the GEA was taken care of, next year and the year after that, we can focus on CFE. And perhaps in the next 3 years, we can pay the whole debt. So I say to my colleagues, living in this capitalist economy where the greed is over need, where profits is over people, we have to make sure that we put legislation together and budget appropriations together to stop the greed, stop the profiteering, and take care of the people. I vote yes on all of this.
Mr. Saladino.
Speaker, would the sponsor yield for some questions?
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Farrell yields. Mr. Saladino.
Thank you. Chairman Farrell, as you've heard, there's been many complaints about the budget, but there's, just like with every budget, there's good news and bad news, and there's some good here today as well. I'm very proud to be part of the group calling for the full restoration of the gap elimination adjustment, helping education, helping our taxpayers. The bigger share we pay of the cost of the fine education of this state, the less the property owners have to pay, the more affordable it makes it for New Yorkers to stay here. And quite frankly, in many places, we do have a very good education system. We've provided for health care needs. We've provided for many needs in this budget that I'm very proud of. But that gap elimination adjustment and the foundation aid, these are things that we have been working on for years. It's not a Johnny-come-lately situation where someone steps up and says, oh, we did it in 1 year. It's our colleagues on both sides of the aisle and the Senate have been working on turning this one around for some time, and I'm proud to be helping to deliver that to our schools. You know, we've been talking a lot about the importance of wages, a wage you can live on in this state. So there's an aspect of the education component that's very puzzling to me, and that's the BOCES aid. You know, I've been calling on a new method to fund BOCES because the method we have is not working. It's very expensive for schools to send people to BOCES. BOCES programs that are exceptional, that are the pathway to success for so many young people with great careers in everything from construction to medical technology to culinary services, communications, everything from learning to be an airline pilot to fixing mom's car to the most complicated computers. So why, sir, have we not changed that path so that we can make it so much more affordable? Why haven't we brought those changes so that schools are much more motivated, frankly, so they can send many more students to BOCES and stay within the cap that we want every school to stay within, so they can have that pathway to success that will pay far more than a job in fast food, far more than those jobs that we're talking about today. Why didn't we fix the much better pathway to success this year?
I didn't hear what you said. Can you repeat that?
We agree with it. We tried. We had it in our one house. We just couldn't touch it.
Chairman, your stamina is only outdone by your sense of humor.
All right, yeah, but to go, well, we agree. We tried. We couldn't really reach an agreement, but we did try.
Well, I hope so, and I hope we really get a lot more serious about that going forward. We have a school on Long Island called LISA, the Long Island High School for the Arts, and it's about to close. Many people, successful performers, people in the arts of every cultural endeavor, have come through this school. People who go on to careers that we wait online on Broadway and pay top-dollar tickets to watch and hear and see them perform. People whose work we see every time we turn on the television, from graphics on. And, you know, if it wasn't for a couple of the thoughtful people in this House and the Senate and the help of rock performer Billy Joel, those doors would be shut this year. We got a little reprieve. And in that reprieve, enough time to fix this BOCES problem, to make it much more affordable and, frankly, motivate the schools to send our young people there. And if we had those jobs, those high-paying jobs that students get through that incredible training at BOCES, we wouldn't be in such a difficult situation over the wage legislation. So something that's real important to keep in mind. You know, on the subject of the wage legislation, you know, I noticed that there are some exceptions for small businesses. Can you speak to us about how we arrived at those exemptions for small businesses?
Well, we negotiated this, and when the Senate had certain positions, the governor had a different position, and what we see before us was what we were able to get. Again, we would like to agree with what you're saying, but...
Yes. Well, to rephrase my question specifically, is there a need for small businesses to have an exemption that allows them to keep the jobs? There's no need whatsoever.
No, well, you can, again, you can find one or two places where it might be right, but we believe that no, they still can make it work, and that's why we put it in. When we did it, you'll notice we didn't say everybody does it immediately. We've taken years to do it. In New York City, we think we can do it much easier, so we do it quicker. As I said when we've been talking about it, we've worked to try to help the farmers. So we are very much concerned with what you said. But again, I must say it, this is also about helping people who work. And a lot of people who work need the money. So we've got to put it there. And the history has said, when you raise money and raise the prices, more money goes into the economy.
Well, so many of us agree with you that we do need an environment where more people can get to work, where more people will have jobs. I'm just a little curious about your answer, because it would make a lot more sense to me if what you're saying was part of the negotiation that you spoke of, that those exemptions would be taking place in counties like Nassau and Suffolk and Westchester, but in the rest of the state, quite frankly. But in fact, the opposite is true. The only place the exemptions take place are in New York City, where the members from these counties tell us that we don't need those exemptions. How is that possible that that worked out? Excuse me?
No, to begin with, New York City is, of course, the fastest and the quickest on it. We made decisions in discussions. People from your part of the island, your part of the state, are, were there, and they said there were certain things they needed. And to put this together, we had to go with that.
But you heard from many of the members that small businesses upstate and in Nassau and Suffolk said they needed that help.
Yes.
And you've told us that New York City is quicker to rebound.
Yeah.
Logic would tell us that the inverse should be the case.
No, we have slowed it down to make it go slower in the areas where you think there will be problems. But in the city, we think, as you say, they can bounce back. If there's anything to bounce, they just can do it quicker. But I still, again, say that people will gain from this. There will not be losses. There may be one or two, and I'll go back to the buggy whip again. But other than that, when this is over, when we get there to 2020, I think you'll find out that the economy is getting better and that people are doing better and they're buying more.
I understand what you've just said, but Chairman, many of us and those folks watching at home are having trouble following your logic. Mm-hmm. What you're saying is that New York City needs those exemptions, but in fact, they have the quicker moving economy.
They don't have any exemptions.
Mr. Bronstein, why do you rise?
Would the speaker allow me to interrupt to ask the chairman a question?
Not at this time, thank you.
Mr. Saladino does not yield.
So Chairman, what we're getting at is we know that upstate has got tremendously difficult economic problems. We know the economy is coming back very slowly. Yeah. We want people to have good-paying jobs. We want there to be lots of jobs. Yes. Long Islanders, you've heard from many of my colleagues that Long Island businesses are having a tough time. We want the people on Long Island to be paid very well and to see prosperity. But the place in the state that has the best prosperity, that has Wall Street, that is the center of business in the world that we're all proud of, gets the exemptions, and those parts of the state...
Now, what exemptions are you talking about?
Well, the exemption that I'm reading is that businesses with at least with under 11 employees are exempt in New York City.
No, they're not. Are they not? What? Yeah. Okay. So all we did was put it back a year. Yeah. Well, we had the only people we took it, we made any arrangements for was the micro businesses, and for those we went back 1 year. We said that we would give them 1 year more to do it. Still less than what we're doing up in upstate in the farmers' land.
Well, it's not only farms upstate. Logic would tell every one of us in the room and everyone watching at home that those areas of upstate that are so much slower to recover from the drastic problems we've had in our economy would need those exemptions, quite frankly, more than the greatest economic engine in the world, New York City. So it doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem logical, and it doesn't seem workable to give one area that already has tremendous economic advantage the exemptions and not give those exemptions, not give opportunity to provide better high-paying jobs to the people who need them in those parts of the state, like upstate, like Long Island.
No, I'm having a big problem here. I look here and I see New York City, and I see in 3 years they will be to $15. The small businesses in 3 years will be at $13, and they will then be $15 in 1919. When I go to Nassau, they don't get to 13 until 12/31/19. And when I go upstate, it is 11/10. So if we're not helping them by doing it, and we're doing it more than New York, because you keep, Manhattan or city, because you keep saying the city, but no matter how you look at it, New York City is going first and fastest, and then the other companies, places who needed help, we gave them help. Now,
Well,
and
clearly,
the longest, the New York State is going to, in 2020, will be at $12.50. That's a lot of help in relation to what's happening in New York City.
Clearly, Chairman, in a time when we are talking about equity, whether it's wage equity or economic equity, the only way to do that is to provide those exemptions, provide that help to upstate businesses who clearly are struggling more than the businesses in New York City.
I'm going to ask you to look at I don't know what you got in your hand. But if you could see what I say
I
here,
have
I'm going to say it again.
our memo that's been worked on by our team of excellent employees
And look for New York State.
who deserve raises too, sir.
Now on New York State,
Gentlemen, can we ask and answer and not talk over each other? It would
Yes, I'll try
we'd
to
get
be
through this a
careful.
lot faster.
Thank you.
it's more, we get another drop, we'll slow down.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, back. Again, when we're finished in 2020, New York State will still be at $12.50, and New York City will have been there for 2 years and 1 year, depending on which one, the large employers or the small employers. Still, in Nassau, in your county, you will not get to $15 until the 21st, 2021. So once again, we are making sure we'll be carrying more in the city, and you and the state will be getting the ability to do it slower than we're doing it. So you can't say that Manhattan or New York is getting it some advantage. There's no advantage there.
Well, certainly,
the advantage is
certainly
in
during that 1 year.
Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, New York State. Yes.
Okay, certainly during that 1 year, there's a tremendous advantage. But there's the economic advantage that New York City has that upstate doesn't have and that Long Island is struggling with. You know, we have been talking a lot about the economic equity among the workforce, among people who provide jobs to the workforce. On the bill?